It's Monday. How did that happen? How was your weekend? Everything good? Everything okay? I was miles away. I got the time wrong. I'm staring at the clock and I've got the time wrong. Drugs. Welcome along. I'm Russ Kane. What's still left of him? And this is Men's Radio Station, The Daily Show. It's very discombobulating, isn't it? When you take I didn't take any time off, but it's discombobulating. I thought it was great. I thought it was lovely. And for me, Her Majesty with Paddington the Bear, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Right. As for the concert, I lasted 20 minutes and then I went off to watch some Johnny Depp movies. That was enough for me. It was enough for a lifetime, to be honest. There we go. Now, anyway, I just learned to vote. I don't criticize. I just learned to vote with my feet. That's how it works. Right. You know him. We've got some fantastic guests, by the way, coming up. Absolutely. You won't want to miss this. Fantastic. You know him. You've learned to love him. A legend in the whole of the Tolworth area. You ever been there? Jesus. Only Neil Long.
I always wanted to be on Broadway. I ended up on Tolworth Broadway, but hey. And I agree with you on the Paddington Bear thing.
I think, by the way, that whole song, Broadway, it's just about Ealing Broadway. They say the lights are brighter there on Broadway. Where? Ealing Broadway.
We actually did a spoof of that.
I'm not surprised.
On Broadway. Yes. We're a bunch of radio dreamers right next door to the dry cleaners. On Broadway. Yeah, we did that.
Here we go. Straight from New York City, Manhattan. It's Elizabeth Green. Hi, Elizabeth. Hope you're okay. Emma Webb. Hi, Em. And Robert Van Buren, clockmaker of the stars. Oh dear, my screen's suddenly going mental. Who the hell knows? Right.
I thought the Paddington Bear.
This is very weird, gang.
Paddington Bear was just magical. I thought that was absolutely magical.
Did you well up? Did you well up? I welled up.
I didn't well up, but I thought it was absolutely magical and brilliant.
I got emotional. Every time I see Her Majesty, I get emotional. We're going to bring our guests on in a minute because I can see them. Right. They're going through the digital green room. You laid out all the pastries and everything, the mini Danish. Mm-hmm. They're going through them like hotcakes.
Oh, quite. Get them on quick because there'll be none left for us.
No, and here we go. Michael Verby. Good morning, gentlemen. This is coming in from the south of Spain. How's the arm? Rubbish is the answer. The thing that's driving me mad is obviously when I went down like a sack of stupid potatoes with a moustache, I must have done something to my right wrist. So both of them are rubbish. We'll leave it at that. There's no point going on about it. It's boring. What else? Linda, Dave. I used to know your son. I'm sure was it Paul Dave? Paul Peter Dave? I can't remember.
Chatland?
I can't remember. Could have been Patrick Dave. I'm not sure. Right. Luke Newman. Good afternoon, gents. I'm back home from my 7th humanitarian trip to Nakuru in Kenya. Do you remember when he messaged us live from there? Built a whole new kitchen and a double-story classroom is well underway. Would you like to do some charity work? My front hall. I'll be honest with you, it's looking a bit shabby. Right, should we bring on our guests?
Yes. Who is it?
I think we should do that. So, right. Dave Sleet, who is going through some huge medical issues. Massive week coming up for him at Moorfields Eye Hospital. You don't want to know the details. He's a fantastic guy. Been so supportive for us with his psychotherapeutic community. Dave, we wish you well. We send you love. Right. Now, here's the thing. And I'm going to preface it with this. They might get cross. I can't help it. But if you're on as many painkillers as me, you wouldn't even notice. Now, one of my favorite actors always has been an amazing chap called Eddie Marsan. Eddie Marsan is a chameleon. You never know it's him. He just disappears into the roles. And I've been an unashamed fanboy for years of his work. Extraordinary actor. Quite extraordinary. To my amazement, we set up, we kind of tweeted each other. I never thought he would answer me. Why on earth would Eddie Marsan answer me? But he did. And he's absolutely charming on Twitter, and it's amazing. Social media can be disgusting and a sewer. It could be absolutely lovely, and you meet people you would never normally meet. And anyway, we got chit-chatting about this, that, and the other, and that hence our next guest. So we're going to bring straight on, so they better put those little bagels down. Hello, Janine and Emily. How are you?
Hello. Good, thanks. Good, thank you.
You both okay?
Yeah, we're great.
Did you that's a very nice piece of furniture behind you. I always say one of the great things about this setup is we get to see into everybody's homes. And that is nice. That is very,
very classy, if I may say so.
This is coming in from lovely Demisa. I know it's not what you're here, but what the heck? Praise where praise is due. Good morning, Ross and Neil. Eddie Marsden is a brilliant actor, phenomenal talent, and an amazing chap. Now then, you're not here to talk about Mr. Marsden. You're here to talk about what you do. So off you go. Tell us all about what's going on.
Well, it's not what I do, it's what I'm doing, which is the dash for Duchenne from London to Paris in 24 hours.
Wow.
Let Emily talk about it a bit more.
So Janine and I are old friends, and my charity, Duchenne UK, 10 years ago came up with a crazy idea of doing a bike ride from London to Paris.
Now, before we go any further, explain about Duchenne, because I have to say, until I saw the word coming up on messages, I'll be quite frank, I'd never heard of it. So what is it?
Yes, well, Russ, I was in the same boat as you a decade ago. But my eldest son, Eli, when he was 3.5, was diagnosed with Duchenne. And it's a muscle wasting disease that by and large affects boys. It's a genetic fault on the longest gene in the body, the dystrophin gene. And dystrophin basically is a protein that works to protect muscle cells. So boys with Duchenne are born without dystrophin. So when my son was diagnosed one awful March morning, the doctors told us that he would not be walking by the age of 8 or 9.
Oh, God.
Would be completely paralyzed in his teens, in what should be the prime years of his life. And that life expectancy is early 20s. And at the time, he was running around like a normal child. So, it was an absolutely devastating moment. And, I just fell into this bottomless chasm of desperation.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
of course.
My husband and I sort of clung to each other like limpets, but it was a very, very dark time. But, even in that moment, we did have a choice. We had a choice to be defined by Duchenne and what it will do, or we had a choice to fight. Yeah. And we chose to fight. So we set up a charity, and in 10 years, we've raised over £17 million. And
Good God.
Wow.
Yeah, we're making a big difference. So we're trying.
17 million pounds.
Yeah.
Do you know your story? And we're going to get straight back to it because I don't want to divert away to it. So that affects baby boys, or boys, we'll say. Yeah.
Really always.
My best friend, Lloyd, his granddaughter, gorgeous little girl, out of nowhere, gets a thing called Rhett's disease, Rhett's syndrome. Again, we'd never heard of it. And you go from being just like the prediction, and we'll come back to you in a sec, and you reverse. It only affects girls.
Yeah.
These things are absolutely awful, and the impact that it has on apart from the child, the impact it has on the family is a tragedy. Anyway, so you decided. I mean, how you've done 17 million pounds in 10 years is phenomenal.
How did you do that? I mean, because that's prolific.
Well, I can't quite believe it myself. I mean, I had no background in charity. I actually used to be a broadcaster. I was a correspondent and presenter for Channel 4 News. And I really thought when I set up the charity that I had no skills, to run an organization, but actually working in news and being able to communicate is really 9/10 of the struggle to, talking about complicated science. It's a rare disease, but it's really not that rare because 2 families a week in the UK are diagnosed with Duchenne. So, my husband and I were very lucky. We had a good network of incredible friends who brought friends with them to our launch event. And from there, it sort of spiraled into this kind of movement of people who wanted to help make history and consign this disease to the rubbish bin, basically. And so
where it belongs.
Yeah. So my good friend Krishnan Gurumurthy, Channel 4 News, he came up with the idea of doing this bike ride from London to Paris in 24 hours. And that really, over the years, has raised us £6 million. So it's a really massively important event for us. And so we've raised the money via, through events, through families being diagnosed with Duchenne, coming to us, wanting to get on board, get involved in the fight to help.
Right.
And then just, incredibly kind, compassionate, generous donors who we've met over the years. But it hasn't been easy. And, for the first 5 years, I had no paid staff. It was just me and my director of research, So it was pretty exhausting. And that's why I haven't been able to actually do the bike ride, because I've just been so busy trying to raise the money and spend it.
Yes, indeed.
My excuse would be because I would get about 100 yards up the road. That's my excuse.
Really hate sport.
I'm just so busy. I'd love to do it. Okay. Now, what is the prognosis with your what's happening exactly? What state? What is the state of play, if I may ask?
Well, we still have very few approved treatments, and the one main treatment that's approved in the UK only works for a very small group of boys. So we're really looking for treatments that will help every boy. And there's been an explosion, is all I can say, in the research that's happening. When my son was diagnosed, there were 2 clinical trials. There are now over 25.
Wow.
And we've set up a network of trial sites. So there are now more boys on clinical trials in the UK than there ever have been, which is fantastic.
And that's really down to, without falsely bigging you up, because I never do that, but that's really down to you and the fact that you can see how to communicate this.
Well, it was more that because Alex, who's my co-founder, her son Jack is the same age as my son Eli, because we're living the disease every day on the front line, we're experiencing in real time what needs to change.
Right.
So when we found out that our sons couldn't get onto a clinical trial in the UK 9 years ago because there weren't enough spaces, because there weren't enough doctors and nurses, we immediately held a big meeting and we invested £4.5 million in funding those doctors and nurses to bring those trials to the UK.
Wow.
And now, the UK is one of the leading countries for Duchenne trials, because we have an amazing network of professors and doctors, but also because we've invested the money in trying to make that environment as open as possible.
This is coming in from Fife in Scotland. It says, and Sue Sleet says, it's unfortunate that local authority support for families with this appalling disease is being cut year on year. That when Neil and I have guests like yourself, I always think of as heroes. You can take it or not, but that's how I see it. All right, absolute heroes. And I always think, isn't it extraordinary that if it's not for people like you and not for my pal Lloyd with Rets and not for people doing all their own charity work, this won't progress, because no one has any money. In other words, any government, it's not a political statement, of any persuasion, of any colour, doesn't have any money. They've always got enough money to fight a war somewhere. Always. It's amazing. You've always got money for bullets, but you've never got enough money for kids with horrible diseases. It just
and you must know, thanks to the research, so much more than you did after the original diagnosis. So how far has this journey progressed towards consigning it to the rubbish tip of history, do you think?
Well, that's a good question, Neil. Here's one example. So when my son was diagnosed, the doctor said, forget gene therapy. Now, gene therapy is where you manufacture a synthetic gene and you deliver it into the body. So it does what the broken gene can't do.
That did cross my mind, actually. Yeah, they ruled that out, did they?
So they ruled that out, but we are not very good at taking no for an answer. So we invested $5 million in a new company in America called Solid Biosciences that was set up by a husband and wife whose son, Etani, has Duchenne. We invested $5 million in their gene therapy program, and they dosed their first patient 3 years ago. They've now dosed 9 boys with that treatment. And what's more, they really fired the starting gun. So we've now got 2 other companies, 3 now actually, one of them Pfizer, who are now dosing boys with their gene therapy, and they're doing it in the UK.
And it works. And it works well.
Yeah, what sort of results?
We're still in phase 3 trials, so we don't have that long-term data yet to say whether or not it definitively works, but it is looking very promising. And I don't want to give families false hope, because research is always about asking questions and waiting until you get the answer. But we are very cautiously optimistic. And, when we set up Duchenne UK 10 years ago, my rallying cry was end Duchenne in 10. Are we there yet? No, we're not, but we're very much on the way. And I can see in my lifetime, absolutely, we will have treatments for this disease.
Did you take that slogan from when you were a very little girl and your parents were driving you somewhere?
What, end Duchenne in 10?
No. Are we there yet? That would drive me mad. You get out the front. Are we there? No, we've just left the gate. We just haven't got to the corner of the street. Now, as men's radio, and indeed women's radio, we have both. And men started a year after women, usual. It's all about mental health, etc. I'm going to be very cheeky, Emily. How do you find the strength, and your husband, how do you find the strength every day I mean, here's me. I fell over in the street. It's like it's the end of the world. You know, it's an apocalypse now, right? Right. It's bullshit. I know, but there we go. That's who I am, and it's awkward because I'm left-handed, so I can't write. And as a writer, that's bloody frustrating. But how do you find the stress? There's something really horribly life-threateningly serious every day.
Good question.
You know, where does it come from?
I never know how to answer that question, really. Partly from amazing friends like Janine, who, you know, are really there to listen and understand and, you know, help.
So explain to me. All right, I'm going to jump in. Why is, and it's not a flippant question. Why is, in what way? Because this is so important for people who are going through horrible stuff. What has Janine done? What does she emanate that makes her an amazing friend? You know,
Amazing question.
What can people do that is of practical use?
I would say the most important thing is to listen without judgment and just to encourage, you know, and that's what Janine does. You know, she understands how hard it is to be a parent. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just a parent, but I'm dealing with, you know, unique challenges. But sometimes Janine will just bring me back and say, yes, but if I didn't have to share, what choice would you make? And sometimes that's the best thing, because I say, well, I'd make that choice. And she said, well, then make that choice, you know. And we had that exact conversation the other week about, you know, is he going to do his driving test? And, you know, of course he's going to do his driving test. You know, I have, you know, my ambitions for him aren't any less because he has Duchenne. You know, I'm researching what university I want him to go to. He's in a band, you know, he's writing his own songs. My ambitions.
What does he play?
He plays the ukulele because it's actually quite lightweight and easy to hold.
Sweet.
So yeah, and
I love the ukulele, by the way.
It's so great. So when we get to Paris, his band are going to be there to perform in the evening at the gala dinner. So that will be.
That is so cool. That is so cool. What
That
an amazing lady you are, Emily.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? How some, you know, when life faces you with enormous adversity, and you know, if my kids get a paper cut, oh my God, I'm like that. You know, that's what you are. That's what a parent's like. And when you have enormous adversity, you're kind of faced with two main roads. You can lie in the street and let the steamroller just run over you, or you can get up and fight. And you've done that. But I find that being active and doing things in whatever situation you find is really the only way to cope, isn't it?
I mean, exercise is really key, and we've been doing some cycling
a lot.
Yeah, we've been doing.
Hang on, I'm so sorry. Hang on, Neil. Did you hear that there was a technical term, and I didn't quite catch it? What's really key?
Exercise. Sorry, Russ.
Neil, are you familiar?
No, there isn't.
She's lost me. I don't know. She's lost me. I don't know. She's talking tongues. I have no idea what she's saying.
I know. I was with you up until that point. Sorry, I lost it.
Lost us now. Completely lost. It was all going so well. Suddenly, I don't know what she's talking about. Exercise, right? Yes, it's true.
I mean, I know it you know, that has very much kept me sane. I never used to exercise before, and then I started doing this outdoor boot camp with our friend Rose, and that saved me for a few years. And then when things got really bad, I started taking antidepressants, and so I've been on them, you know, for 2.5 years, and that also helps. And I also have a lot of therapy, and we're lucky enough to be able to afford that, and to have family therapy as well, because I think, you know, I'm a really big believer in talking about things.
Oh God!
Trying to resolve.
When we started Men's Radio Station, which was based, I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it's about you. It's not about us. But I came up with the strapline where men really talk, because the fact that men particularly don't talk often leads to their suicidal thoughts and to their suicides, because they just won't communicate. Don't forget, 80% of the suicide statistics in the UK, 80% men, 20% women, which is what's prompted me to start all of this. So, yeah, talking is so important, and especially Brits, we're pretty rubbish at it. You know, I mean, Californians could bore you shitless, but there is a happy medium between the two. You know. Tell me something. So you're on antidepressants now, and please, we have it's not the BBC and it's not Channel 4, so we don't. It's not adversary. We don't dig. It's only if you want to. It's a conversation. If you don't want to go there, say Russ, Neil, shove off. We don't want to talk about that. The antidepressants. Some people poo-poo it and say, "Ooh, terrible side effects." I think they're brilliant, personally.
Well, I mean, I can't believe I'm actually sharing that with you, which is, you know, quite a private thing, but I feel like there should be a stigma. You know, I used to be a little bit judgy about it, and now I just, you know, they don't make me happy, they just keep me on an even keel, and they just
don't, I think people very rudely, and it's a subject we come to a lot on MRS, and people, you know, who don't know or have the empathy of a coffee table say, oh, they're happy pills. They're not happy pills. You don't take them and suddenly go, yoo-hoo, this is great. You know, I'm at a Motley Crue concert. It's not that at all. It simply balances you up. And excuse me, if you're not producing serotonin, they're essential. That's it.
Yeah. It makes better use of the serotonin you already have, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Neil.
They make better use of the serotonin that you naturally produce. It slows down the reuptake of it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So there should be no stigma about that.
I agree. And I'm, you know, here I am funding medical research because I believe in the power of science to improve people's lives. And I believe in the science behind, you know, antidepressants. As you say, it's a physiological thing in your brain. And if you can help restore balance to that, it just helps you get on with the rest of your life. That's why I do it.
It's true. And, you know, if you want to be of use, you've got to be the best. Oh, I hate this phrase, but you've got to kind of be the best version of you that you can muster. There's no point otherwise, you know, otherwise it's hopeless. So you don't want to be a passenger in these things, or passive. You want to, you know, so if that's what it takes, you know, I don't see it any different than having to wear a splint and have metal shoved in my hand. If you've got to do it, you got to do it. And that's the end of it. Let's have a look at this comment, if you don't mind, coming in from New York. Neil, can you read this? I don't know.
You address mental health, and waking up to this conversation gives me strength and stops me in my tracks when I wake up in the wrong side of happy. Pleasure.
I wonder how many of the other 7 dwarfs that she's waking up with, though. Moving on. Okay, I can say that because I know her. Well, I've met her twice for coffee. That's as much as I know. So there we are. When she's in London. Now, if people want to donate, etc., start plugging the backside out of this. Where do they go? What do they do?
I'm not very good at this, but no. I mean, just please sponsor Janine and I. You know, Janine's on Just Giving. I'm on Just Giving with my husband. It's the Duchenne Dash. And this really is our biggest fundraiser of the year. So we need to, you know, every penny counts.
So if we, just to be clear, because I am professionally stupid, we just go onto I don't know how this works. There's a Just Giving page, or what do you do? If
you go on Just Giving and search for Janine Schneider-Marzen, probably easiest because I'm on the page with my husband, aren't I?
Janine Marzen. Or Janine Marzen. It's on Eddie Marzen Twitter as well. We'll repost today.
Would you do that? And then what I'll do, for whatever it's worth, is I will repost and send it out.
Yes, indeed. Tag me and I'll repost as well.
And Neil will do the. So that, in one way, that's the whole of New Malden sorted with Neil.
I'm a pretty big cheese in this corner of the world, let me tell you. Yeah. Pulling an audience as far as the local Tesco's.
He is like the Diana Ross of New Malden. He walks down the street, people go wild. Jeez.
What can I
never do a show on painkillers.
I love what you're doing. I love that the research has advanced thanks to you. I just think that's incredible. It's just like looking at you and going, hey, you did that. And I mean, at the very least, it's going to contribute to a field that wasn't being contributed to before.
Precisely.
And at the very most, possibly a cure, and consigning it to the rubbish tip of history. And
I love that phrase.
And the amazing thing with science is there are so many incredible breakthroughs just happening day after day after day. And our understandings of all these ologies, including science, has just rocketed, absolutely rocketed. So, I mean, for me, absolutely everything to play for. Someone's got to come up with a cure. Might as well be you.
It's very interesting, Emily, that like me, I believe in science. To be quite frank, I don't believe in religion. It's a side issue. But, you know, people say, well, and, you know, you get like Doreen, the hairdresser from Stoke-on-Trent, who's suddenly a genius on pandemics. Because she did Mrs. Snook's hair once, but she's going to question people who have been studying science and gone through every qualification. I don't understand that with people. I mean, I somehow think at night there are UFOs and they drop off people from the planet stupid secretly, and they're here, and we think, what is it, 1500 and something where you live? No, we're in 2022. What's the matter with you?
It's suddenly people become experts on things that they know nothing about.
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
And I'll talk about a book or something, and they go, "That's a load of rubbish." And I go, "Have you read it?" "Well, no, I don't need to. I know it's rubbish."
I don't trust the science. What do you know about science? Well, not that much, but so it's very interesting.
That's all psychobabble and all that nonsense.
You have to trust the science. But my question to you, Emily, is: do you ever step back and now we've only known each other for the whole of 25 minutes, right? Do you ever step back and say, you know, considering everything in life, I've done a pretty damn good job? Do you ever allow yourself to pat yourself on the back? Because I think, obviously, the pair of you, but for what you've done is not just exemplary, it's extraordinary. Do you allow yourself that?
No, not really.
No, she doesn't.
No, you should do.
Well, you should.
You deserve it. I mean,
we've all got that inner voice that no matter what you do will tell you that it's not enough and you're not enough. And that is, I think, the biggest load of bullshit ever foisted on human beings. Because just in knowing that you're enough helps you know that you're enough, and then you feel enough, and enough happens. If you don't, if that makes sense. But we've all got it. We've all got this little inner voice. I've been working on mine for years.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got that. I don't feel like I've done nearly enough.
Neil came up with.
I will say that voice is full of shit, by the way. Don't believe anything
it's
it tells
garbage.
you.
I actually, the way that I get rid of my inner, because we've all got this imposter syndrome. And I wonder if even Eddie gets that. He could be standing on. I mean, I get it, and I've spoken to some of the most successful people, and we talk about it openly. And I go, "You've got imposter syndrome." They go, "Yeah," but Neil, if this helps, Emily, I mean, I like this to be a two-way street because you've been extraordinary. Neil, do that thing that you told about the thumb. Because I used that technique last week. It's genius. This is
Did it work for you? I can't take credit for this. It was Paul McKenna. It's from one of his books.
Both Neil and I used to work with Paul McKenna, and he's quite a good mate. He's done quite well.
I absolutely won't claim credit for this as my own. It's not.
I'm sorry. I got to say, last time I saw McKenna, me, Tarrant, and McKenna. We went out for dinner somewhere in wherever they lived in Surrey, and I said, "Oh, you know, it's the middle of nowhere. It was the Greek Vine. Do you remember that now?" And I said, "Oh, yeah. Paul, do you want to lift home? Can I take you home in my little car?" You know, going, "No, it's okay. I've got." And I realised there was a brand new Rolls Royce sitting outside, parked in the street with a chauffeur. And I thought, Russ, you really just haven't got this, have you? You just haven't got the level to which he's achieved. Right, your thumb thing. Come on.
Well, what it is when we've got this inner voice, because I've done a bit of NLP myself, so I understand how it works, but I didn't invent this. And the inner voice is literally generally in your head. But if you heard about someone else's inner voice, you're kind of observing it from a distance, and it's very easy. That's why it's very easy to say to other people, "You should feel good about yourself. You should do this." It's very easy to sort other people out and very hard to do yourself. Solution: this. If you get the voice and give it a little character, like a little man or a little woman, and stick your thumb out and put this character on the top of your thumb, shrunk right down, so it's now very tiny and at a distance. And then imagine it talking in a very squeaky voice that you couldn't take very seriously. And for some reason, it gets it out of your head and puts it into a perspective where you feel much bigger than it, and it kind of loses its power over you. And as Russ says, it does work rather well.
I thought when Neil did it, I was intrigued, and then I was getting, all sorts of things in my head, as you do.
But not the inner voice.
And I did that, and I thought, blow me down. Well, I said something quite a little bit different, but I said, that'll do for this. And it works because you show it up to be what it is, which is not worthy of your time.
Yeah, if there is an imposter, that's the imposter, not you.
Yeah. It's fascinating how we all do it.
Yeah, I've taught Kerry that as well. I've taught Kerry that for
good. You know what, Emily, and I say this to Janine as well, I'm always stunned, and it's a real bugbear with me, where somebody who's a pop star or something like that and has made millions and led a fabulous life, and they get an honor, like an OBE or a knighthood, and I'm going, what have they done? They've just had a fabulous time, taken loads of drugs, and just had a wonderful life, right? And then somebody like yourself, and there's so many unsung heroes who deserve. It's not going to make your life any better, but it's an acknowledgement. And I feel really strongly about that people who really deserve these honours, if you believe in the honour system, you may think it's phooey, I don't know.
There's a lot of love in the room for Emily, and quite
Yeah,
rightly so.
absolutely. You know, something like that. It's just an endorsement. It's just an acknowledgement,
Quite right.
of what you've done. I mean, 17 million is quite extraordinary.
That is quite phenomenal. Well done. Congratulations. I'm gonna follow this. I'm gonna keep up to date with it. And when I hear that cure has been found, I'm going to be one cheering the loudest. And
now, if you would like, if you guys anytime would like to come back, you've got. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. You would very much like to. You've got my email, and you got it now. So just give us updates if we can help publicize this. You have an open door. You don't have to go through Channel 4 committee meeting. You can just send me an email, and boom, you'll. This is interesting. Kerry Stoneman talked about inner voices just very quickly. It says this. What does it say? What does that say? I have no idea what that says. It says, I have David Drainman from Disturbed. Oh, God. Arguing with Joe Pasquale in my head. That's genius.
You see, how we did this, I actually did think of this one. Joe Pasquale was the naughty voice, the one she didn't want. So we made him very, very squeaky.
Get on your nerves, get on your nerves.
Exactly. But how seriously can you take that? And then we put a strong voice in as David Draymond, who is the front man of the rock band, of the metal band Disturbed. And if you haven't seen him do The Sound of Silence, YouTube it. It is
my God.
powerful.
Have you ever seen it, Emily?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God. What?
YouTube, The Sound of Silence by Disturbed. Trust me. And then when you see how hard and terrifying he looks, that's what we use to get rid of Kerry's inner voice, because trust me, her inner Pasquale would not mess with her inner David Draymond. And when you see the video, you will know exactly what I mean.
It's phenomenal. It's funny. I always assumed, being an idiot, that was some voice that Joe Pasquale put on for his act. And then I went down to see him, and what happened was, I'm just going to get rid of this. And what happened was that we met for breakfast the next day, and that's his voice, and that was absolutely killing me. It was just killing me. It was just so fun. I don't know where Neil's gone. Anyway, there you're back. Listen, thank you both so much for coming on. Major props to you both for what you've done. We wish you all the very, very best. I hope the bike ride to Gay Paris, can you say that these days, is a huge success. And lots of Vaseline and E45 probably is what's required. And I'm not doing the Chihuahua joke. Anyway, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure. Okay,
Really
bye-bye.
Privileged to meet you. Take care. Bye-bye. Wow.
Amazing people. Amazing people. That's what it's all about. Amazing people.
Absolutely fantastic.
It always drives me mad when people, are such blowhards, and I've done, and they're working away, and at the the coal face, chipping away under horrible bloody circumstances. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know where it's a bit contentious, but bear with. I have so much more respect for somebody like Emily and Janine than I do for the CEO of a charity who's being paid 100, 120 grand, 150 grand a year, because it's a job. It's a career.
Yeah, but for them, it's I wouldn't even use the word vocation. Even that's not big
It's
enough.
not a
That
vocation.
is almost a life
What would you call it? That's interesting. What would you call it?
Life purpose, maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
Purpose, passion.
These things. I mean,
Vocation, at least.
Vocation. I think you can take most things except for terrible things happening to your children. And when that happens, it's really hard to keep a grip on.
But I'm optimistic there will be a cure. I mean, with the genetic studies that are going on today, it's not beyond the realms of possibilities. What I grew up with as science fiction is now science fact.
We haven't been to Mars.
Not yet.
We're not
I haven't
yet.
been to Mars.
You don't know, triffids aren't. By the way, if you see a triffid, salt water, finished. It's over. They never
Thanks for
thought
the heads
through.
up. I didn't know that.
No, because New Malden could be the epicenter of a Triffid attack. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, but why would we tell you? We could be planning on taking over the world, and I could be the head of the Triffids.
I know.
In human form. And I've
That
wild my
explains
way
so
into
much.
a mental health radio station
That
before I launched
explains.
my evil plan.
It's genius. It's beyond genius. It's absolutely beyond genius. I've got an awful feeling, you know. No, I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, back to the physio tomorrow. Back to the hospital and the physio, and they can. It's interesting. I've had to use some strange techniques, because I have to every day clean. God, I have to clean the wires on my hand, which means I have to take all this crap off. And there's these bloody great metal things sticking out of the back of my hand. Right. Now I'm really quite squeamish. So I have to clean them every day. And it's a whole palaver with alcohol wipes and sterile water and Q-tips. Christ knows what else, right? And I have to put myself into a different mental state. Because if I think that's my hand, I got huge problems. I can't, you know, I mean, who the hell looks down and sees great big bits of metal sticking out the back? And I had to put myself in some sort of Zen state, and I've done it. I've done it, and I do this
So
every
how do
day.
you do
But
that?
it has
Would
to
be
be
a great
done.
question, because that would be of use to many people. How do you do that? How do you put yourself in that Zen state?
I just have to say, I'm doing this job, Leslie Demise, you sauce boat, Neil, as head of the
Neil,
Triffids.
as head of the Triffids, do you have a very long proboscis? Absolutely, Leslie.
That's why we only see Neil from the waist up. Now, how do I do it? I have to say to myself, it's just interesting because you have, you know, taken the whole show into new areas with your studying and your reading and everything like that. And I have to say this, I'm doing this. This is somebody else's hand. But part of me is going, don't be an idiot. Obviously, it's your hand and you don't want to screw it up. But I had to do that because the thought of it was like, oh, God, now I know in the great scheme of things, it's nothing. My old school friend sent me an email first thing this morning. He's a wonderful writer called Patrick Humphreys, a brilliant author. When we were at school, Patrick, we were little kids at the time, not even big kids. He got cancer, and they took his leg off, and it was brutal surgery, not like today. I'm going back to the 60s, and they took his leg off, and he's had to live with one leg. And he's an amazing guy, and I feel so embarrassed. He said, "How are you?" So I wrote this whole moaning thing, and I'm going to write back after the show, going, "What the hell am I complaining about? Jesus, what you've endured your entire life, this is going to mend up one way or another."
Actually, I'm gonna pick you up on that, if I may, because when I had my mental health dip a couple of years ago, my inner voice would say things exactly like that, and it was, "Is that all it took to take you out? Is that all it took? Look at that person over there who's been through that. Look at those people in Ukraine." It was before Ukraine, but you get the idea. Look at those people. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And again, it's that never has anything good to say. When what the inner voice should be saying is, you know, it doesn't matter. This is not a game of pain trumps. If you're in pain or suffering, you're in pain or suffering, and it needs care and attention. This inner voice that we've all got until you learn to manage it is so cruel. And I think that's just another example of it. It's saying that what you're suffering isn't valid and doesn't really need care or treatment. It's this comparative.
Everything's relative, you know. I mean, there's Patrick with one leg and having to, you know, if we go out to it, I can't go out because I can't cut my food. But I don't go out at the moment. But when he and I meet for lunch and we just chat about music and art, and he's such a fascinating guy. I always have to choose things like, he says, "I'll pick a restaurant," and I always choose something which has got proper access, things you don't think about. You know, I run around Soho and I don't give it a thought. I'll be honest with you, and then I feel guilty that I don't. But with Patrick, of course, like I got to find somewhere with the toilets on the ground floor, because on a bad day he'll be in a wheelchair, especially if he's got to come in from the never complains, never moans. He's hilarious. Witty man. Now let's see what Liz Saul has to say. As she's your mate, you may read this out. Please do.
Me too, Russ. Very squeamish, says Liz. When I've had assorted situations, I go into professional mode, news mode, remove yourself slightly. It mainly works. Hope you're not in discomfort for too much longer.
Oh,
and it
bless you,
actually
thanks.
comes back to the NLP again, because that whole thing with Joe Pasquale and putting things on your thumb, that's basically looking at it from what they would call a disassociated perspective. So it's like you're looking at something for a distance. So it's like hearing someone else talk about it. That's how we experience it, not you, if you see what I mean. And then you can flip it around the other way. If you feel distant from something, you can associate with it and be more into the experience. And you can do all that with NLP as well. It works in both directions. Leslie, lovely Demesa, as you call her. At least it's only your hand you're cleaning. I had to do cleaning on the wires in my feet. Tomorrow I'm going to the fracture clinic, hopefully 1 year on, to get signed off.
Yeah, she had a series of, I mean, I can talk. She had a series of falls, and I kept saying, what the hell? And it really nasty, really nasty. The one thing I will say, and I will share this, because what's the point of co-founding a radio station about mental health and well-being if you can't be honest, is that I did not realize that a stupid fall in the street would shake me up so badly. And it really, really has. And I'm fighting it. It's the most peculiar thing. I'm not that guy. But I am that guy over this, shaking me up, shaking my confidence. And
that's the point. Whatever triggers us, and therefore it needs our self-love, our care, and attention. And to say, "Oh, I'm not suffering as much as that person; they deserve it more than me," is kind of neglecting yourself a bit. And it took me a lot, and I still struggle with it a little bit today. But really, you can't do anything for anyone else unless you are full.
Well, it's the oxygen mask in the aeroplane.
It's the oxygen mask in the aeroplane. But one of the most insidious tricks of that little inner voice is to say, well, your suffering isn't as bad as them. What you got to worry about?
But it's true. You got to put these.
It's like saying to someone with depression, snap out of it. What do you got to be depressed about?
No, you know what I always say with that, and I hate that, because it shows that people do not understand depression at all. It's like if somebody's got a broken leg. You go, well, you've got a broken leg. Run around the garden. You'll feel better. Well, I can't. I've got a broken leg. Run around the garden. Cheer up. You're depressed. Cheer up. It's the same thing. It's so stupid.
It is, but we do it to ourselves.
And it comes out of ignorance.
It just makes us people that are doing that to ourselves because there's no need to. We've been kind of trained into it. It's the way society trains us. But we can retrain our brains. We really can.
Let's go up to Fife in Scotland. Would you like to read this, Mr. Neil?
I'd be delighted. Sue Sleet. I think from my personal experience, when your child is diagnosed with any condition, whether it's dyslexia or something more serious and life-threatening, a parent's inner voice says, what did you do to inflict this on your child? Really gets expressed, but it eats at you even after 28 years. Yeah, and no one in their wildest imagination could pin that on you, Sue, or anyone.
Do you know why? That's why I hate religion. That's why I hate religion, because at the core of it is this thought, well, you've done something to deserve it. You haven't.
And do you know that?
Haven't.
Yeah, I know. And I agree with you, because I call myself spiritual, but not religious. I'm all into the universe and all that sort of stuff. And I don't believe that. That whole premise religion's based on, I do not believe. And there's many like me. In fact, about 40% of the world, I think, would class themselves as spiritual, but not religious. I don't believe in that original premise. I think it's wrong. And I think it has inflicted so much suffering on humanity, this idea that we're all born evil in some way because of something that happened maybe in history in some garden, God knows how many zillion years ago. And now we're all evil by default. That's bullshit. I don't believe that. There, said it.
Well, it's a huge thing. I suppose my view is, as a broadcaster, it behooves me to say, if it gives people comfort, if it gets them through life, if it makes them feel better, then all power to you.
I agree. I would sum it up as follow your
fine.
joy.
Just don't shove it down my throat.
Follow your joy. And that's totally individual. It can't be shoved down anyone's throat, because only we know what brings us joy.
Look at this. This is coming in from Manhattan. Oh, what happened there? Let's try it again. I have to do everything with my right, and I'm using the mouse with my right hand, so I'm not quite as dexterous.
Shall I get this one for you, Russ?
Yes, thank you very much.
Excuse me, these are my spare glasses because I've lost my other ones, and I look like Dame Edna Everage, so don't mock me. Shut up! Sorry,
You don't. They look completely like normal glasses.
No, they don't. I look like Dame Edna. And when my hair's longer, people say I look like their 80-year-old grandmother, and I really hate that. My son got ulcerative colitis, age 14. My mother called every day and said, "Well, is he better yet?" Totally blame me. Well, this is the kind of thing that this is the kind of thing.
Helpful. That's helpful.
It's just not helpful. It's just very unhelpful. Maybe people do the best they can. Are they any better?
No, those are campers that row of tents. The other ones are better. Wear the blue ones when you're in Old Compton Street, sitting at Cafe Nero.
They're very Timmy Mallet, aren't they?
Yeah. What do they call them? Personality glasses.
Personality glasses.
Jesus, that's what I just don't. Now, Liz, who's your mate, says, I have my faith. It has helped in times of trouble. I'm mainly spiritual, however. It's more peaceful. Totally so. Totally so.
Yes.
It is not for me. It is not for anyone to say that what you're doing is wrong. I don't happen to believe in that. I'm kind of with Ricky Gervais on this. I'm with George Carlin on this. If you want to, yeah, I mean, I don't want to.
I've seen the George Carlin sketch. I know the one you mean, and I completely agree with every word he says. And yeah, I'm still spiritual. How does that work?
But spiritual's okay. I think spiritual makes you a better, more rounded
full of
person.
your joy.
Full of your
good feeling.
And it doesn't mean that you don't believe in science.
No.
You know,
no. Everything I believe embraces science. I think I'll take all of it. I'll cherry pick.
Yeah, why not?
I'll just take the good bits.
It's your choice. It's your choice. You can cherry pick. I don't know why it has to be so didactic. Another one for you to read out with your fabulously non-gay glasses. No, don't wear the other ones. No, I can't take you seriously if you wear those.
Imagine if I was that cruel in a voice. You see, that's how it works. If I put my silly glasses on, you can no longer take me seriously. And now you're laughing, and now the inner voice isn't bothering you anymore. You see how this works?
Yeah, you're not
More
making
courage.
me feel
The one
guilty,
time I had a bit of a wobble during my
a lot harder to make me feel guilty.
The one time I had a bit of a wobble during my cancer treatment was when I had a massive internal hemorrhage caused by the tumour. I nearly died in A&E, and it's thanks to the brilliance of one young doctor that managed to prevent me going into cardiac arrest, and I'm here today. Wow. Before that, I was very matter-of-fact about things, but that shook me. It made me realise we're all mortal, here one moment and gone the next. Yeah.
Well, it's a very short ride we're here, and as my late wife used to say, that this isn't the dress rehearsal, this is it. You know, we get one bite at the cherry, one go on the merry-go-round. Enjoy it, or don't enjoy it. My choice is to try and enjoy it. I believe in. We're getting quite deep today, but what the hell? Why not? I believe in small victories, tiny victories. That's what propels me. That's what gives me pleasure. It used to be the big thing. The new house, the new sports car, meaningless, utterly meaningless. I don't have things really. I've stripped right down because I don't need things. I think a lot of things are people need some sort of validation.
I agree. I would say enjoy, but don't need. It's a difference.
Oh yes,
if you need something to be happy, it negates your inner happiness. But if you enjoy something and that's part of your happiness, why not? I enjoy Knickerbocker Glories. I don't need them to be happy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You really sure?
I have no Knickerbocker Glory attachment issues.
Okay, fair enough. That's okay.
I've worked hard on it.
So that therapy with Paul McKenna, you do not need Knickerbocker Glories, worked.
It did. Put them on my thumb.
If
it's useful to you and your listeners, I'll happily do some more NLP stuff.
What do you think, gang? I think it's bloody marvelous, quite frankly, because would
you like some more? I could do a technique a day if you want, or whatever.
Do you know what, Neil? That would be great, because I'm not blowing smoke up your posterioso. I thought that was because it's so simple. Yes. And yet what you're doing really is deconstructing something which is incredibly complex.
Yes.
But you've reduced it to a simple thing to physically do, and overcome something which plagues millions of people.
Yep.
Millions.
And as I say, I can't take credit for it. All credit goes to
it doesn't matter. You're the apostle for it.
And the NLP community, but I will be the apostle for it if you like.
I do. All right. Well, if you've got another one, I'm up for that. Or do
What
you
now?
need some time? No, if you need some time to think about it, we'll do it.
I got one off the top of my head, if you like.
Fine. Okay.
Instant good feelings on demand. Okay.
Good feelings on demand. I like that. Ooh,
Okay.
that's good.
So it uses imagination, and we use imagination all the time.
With Lee John?
Pardon?
With Lee John?
No, not imagination. The 80s pop band, and I've met
Okay,
Lee John,
fine.
and
Okay.
he's
No,
very.
you weren't clear. You didn't
I'm
make
sorry.
yourself
Well,
clear.
No, I can talk about Lee John if you want. He's
No, I'd
incredibly
rather you don't, because I
charismatic.
get all these emails about Lee John, and I go, why? Anyway, there we are. I'm sure he's a lovely fellow.
If you've seen him
Moving
on
on.
stage, you would know why. He's incredibly charismatic.
Is he good? Good for him.
Absolutely brilliant. And when
Why
he did Body Talk, anyway. But it's the use of imagination, and we can either use imagination productively,
Yeah.
or just kind of take it where it's going to take us, or we can use it destructively. It's our choice, and people don't know it is their choice, but it is their choice. So it's sort of deliberate use of imagination. If you imagine, just to remember or recall a time that you felt really, really good, you were on top of your game, and you felt really great about something. It doesn't matter what it is. You can put it up in the messages if you want this particular memory, if anyone wants to play along, or you don't have to. You can just do it privately in the recesses of your own mind. But just imagine a time, recall a time when you, on top of your game, you looked and felt absolutely fantastic, and everything was just great. And then just like with the thumb, we were taking it out. This is the reverse. We're putting it back. So see yourself through your own eyes as you were then. Any sounds that you were hearing at the time, any sensations you were feeling. Okay, if it was a holiday, maybe you see yourself. See through your own eyes on the beach. You wouldn't see yourself because that'd be outside of you. So you're seeing in first person, hearing the sounds of the sea around you, feeling the sensations of the sand on your feet and all that time, and really associate into that sensual experience. Because there's a part of our mind that doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And if you want proof of that, imagine biting into a lemon. Really imagine getting a lemon, cutting it in half and biting into the juice. And most people pucker a bit. They go like that. Exactly. You're doing it now. So there's no real lemon there. And this is how we can do it. But rather than imagine something sour
My problem is I'm thinking vodka tonic.
If that's what
you think I'm joking.
In this
you
exercise,
said bite into a lemon, and I'm immediately thinking vodka.
Then I would use this technique in a slightly different way with you. But the point is, once you feel the peak of that experience, once you feel the peak, and just before it starts to fade, just do that with your thumb and forefinger and associate that movement with the feeling that you're now feeling. Okay. And then just repeat it. And that's called creating an anchor. And it's basically using that process of imagination and recall, but deliberately, not by default. And that will bring good feelings. And then what you do, you kind of clear the screen and break state, and you say something like, the last 2 digits of your mobile number backwards, and people have to stop and think. It's like,
I can't do that. Are you kidding?
And the reason why we do that is to test you can go back in, because that's now taking you out because you've used a different bit of your brain. But then if you do that again, the feelings should come back. And then you can just keep doing that and doing that and doing that and bringing those feelings back and back and back. So imagine having access to good feelings on demand every day, whenever you chose to. Just keep bringing them back.
And can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do
this? Yes, I can. I teach other people to do it as well.
No, I understand, but teachers sometimes can teach and explain and communicate brilliantly. But I'd love to be able to do that.
Like brain surgery, it's very, very clever, but it's very hard to do on myself. If I was going to have brain surgery and I was a great brain surgeon, I probably wouldn't do it on myself. It's kind of similar with NLP. I prefer people that can do it with me. Excuse me. And I do find that a lot easier. I enjoy having the help. But is it possible to do by yourself? Yes.
It's very impressive. When we had the studio in Covent Garden, which we shut down because of COVID and everything, I remember Phil Dave, bless him, has got a thing about wasps. A serious problem about wasps. He I don't know if he was stung when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he's got a real issue with wasps. They freak him out completely. And we had a guest in who did this tapping business. And I thought, what a load of old moolah.
No, it works.
Anyway, he did this thing on Phil, and it completely worked. It was extraordinary.
Would you like the science behind that? Because I can explain that.
Why not?
Okay, that's called EFT, emotional freedom technique. It came from someone called Roger Callahan, who had the very early iteration of it called thought field therapy, and it was a woman with a terrible fear of water, to the point she couldn't even have a 1-inch bath. She was so frightened.
Good God!
And
Okay.
in a flash of intuition, I don't know how it happened, he said, "Just tap there," and immediately her fear was gone. And then
Why?
it evolved
I've
into
never understood why.
I'll tell you why. Then it evolved into EFT, with Gary Craig being at the forefront of that, and it's tapping acupuncture points or acupressure points on the body. Each of these points is an acupressure point. I'm sorry if you're listening on Deluxe Radio, you can't see what I'm doing, but if you're watching, these are the points. There's one there. There's a tender spot. That there.
Explain where you're pointing rather than me doing a sort of running commentary of Neil is now
under the arm, and there's a gamut point in between there. That's the final point. It's like the ridge in there, sort of just to the underneath the little finger, that ridge there, and that's the final one, and that's the round of points. And essentially what it is, if you think of the Eastern philosophy, like acupuncture, it's just moving energy around the body. So in the Eastern philosophy, illness and fears are just blocked energy, like a shopping trolley chucked in the river. And then the river gets dirty and the mosquitoes come. But remove the shopping trolley, the river flows again. This is about energy flow. And so his fear of wasps was essentially an energy which that person moved by tapping. It doesn't matter how long it's been there.
It was uncanny to watch because,
it is.
Phil's very open. I'm very open. And if it wasn't working, I'd go, I don't think so, fella. And, his
Russ,
face.
they've done some amazing things with it. I've seen people who've had chronic pain for years be cured by it. I've seen a woman who had the frozen shoulder, couldn't lift her arm, and they tapped, and she's like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" I'm serious.
That's weird.
It does look miraculous. I've seen it.
That is so weird. I attended many, many years ago, and I've mentioned it, and I will continue to mention it, a lecture by Deepak Chopra.
He's the godfather of spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely. This was at the Royal Geographical Society, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous place if you've never been, and very Victorian and marvellous. He never had one note. He spoke for over 2 hours. He didn't have a note in front of him.
Yeah, he was in flow.
And I just sat there, and he had the ability to explain the sort of things that you're talking about, Neil, and then go into very complicated physics and science. But he brought the whole audience with him because he managed to dice and slice it, so to speak, so you could understand it. Because there's nothing worse than somebody just talking. It's going all over your head and you go, what the hell am I doing here? What am I going to have for dinner? That sort of thing. He was absolutely amazing. And as he said, the one main thing that I took away, or some of it I actually put into my book, The Gatekeeper, but which was horror film thing. But the brain is the greatest pharmaceutical resource on the planet. And if you can train it to release whatever it needs to release, I'm not very technical, endorphins and dopamine,
serotonin, anandamide.
If you can train it to do that, you're laughing.
Well, there's a lot of research now where you can do exactly that. I think Mind Valley, I don't know if you've heard of them. They've got a course with, I think he's called Dawson Church, and he is exactly that. He is training the brain to release these bliss chemicals on demand. So just imagine if you felt naturally good every day and it was in your control. And these things I do think are within our reach now. They really are.
It's my view is it's worth a go because, as I always say, what am I saying? What's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is you won't feel any worse than you already do.
Exactly.
The upside is, and it's not like it's invasive surgery or anything.
The upside is it might just change your whole life.
It might just work. It might just work. This is interesting. Again, coming in from Fife in Scotland, I use tapping when working with distressed children.
Yes, it's great for children because it's simple to learn, and it's as you say, it's non-intrusive, and you can make it a game with children.
That's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. But people who are very narrow-minded, I always say, give it a go. Give it a go.
I know a couple of EFT tapping teachers. I could get one on the show if you wanted.
Yeah,
one day.
Would
you like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting thing. So because I just thought, this is crap. This is somebody thinking, how can I make
most
money
of it looks so bizarre, but it just works.
Does.
Although if we'd have been brought up in the East, where everything's about energy flow and all that sort of thing, it wouldn't seem crap to us at all. It's just our Western sort of secular scientific mindset that dismisses, if I can't see it, I can't believe it kind of thing. But to a person of the Eastern mentality, it would be kind of, they would be surprised that we didn't believe it. They would find us quite primitive in that sense, I would say.
Well, there we go. I've really enjoyed today.
It's been great. What a couple of great guests, Russ, as well.
Weren't they fantastic? Neil and I will be back on when I lost track of what day it is. You could tell me it's Friday.
I'm afraid it is a Monday, but we'll be back on Wednesday on Hump Day.
We'll be back on Wednesday. Until then,
with another NLP technique for you.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good afternoon.